The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. What really happened between Jennifer Lopez and Brett Goldstein?
It is, honestly, the ultimate modern Hollywood mystery, wrapped in a massive PR campaign and hidden inside a rom-com.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we are unpacking a really massive stack of sources for this deep dive.
We really are. We've got celebrity gossip columns, we've got rigorous movie reviews, and a fascinating peer-reviewed scholarly journal article on psychology.
Which is, yeah, it's quite the mix.
It is. But our mission here is twofold. First, we're going to figure out the truth behind those red carpet rumors surrounding the newly released Netflix rom-com Office Romance.
Right.
But more importantly, we want to uncover the deep psychological reasons why we, as a culture, are so utterly captivated by the private lives of people we have never even met.
It's a journey that starts with a glamorous movie premiere, but it ends up peeling back some very raw, very real layers of human nature.
Exactly. We are definitely going to get into the truth about J.Lo and Brett Goldstein. But later in the deep dives, we'll talk about a shocking psychological twist regarding celebrity obsession that nobody saw coming.
Yeah, the data in that study completely reframes how we should look at fan culture. It's not just about casual entertainment. It's tied to some very real developmental psychology.
I cannot wait to get into that.
Yeah.
But before we get to the science, let's set the stage with the bold headlines. So, Office Romance dropped on Netflix yesterday, June 5th, 2026.
Yep.
And the pitch is pretty straightforward. You've got Jennifer Lopez starring as this high-powered airline CEO named Jackie Cruz, and Ted Lasso star Brett Goldstein playing her company lawyer, Daniel Blanchflower.
Sounds like standard rom-com fare, right?
Totally. But the real story, like the narrative dominating literally everyone's feeds, hasn't been the plot of the movie at all. It's been their off-screen dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. The rumor mill has been working at maximum capacity on this one. According to Page 6, anonymous sources were claiming the two had a secret fling while filming.
A secret fling?
Yeah. The whole narrative being pushed was that their chemistry on set was just undeniable. Crew members supposedly said they were very cozy at the wrap party, constantly flirting between takes, that sort of thing.
Wow.
And there was even a reported date in early 2025.
Right. They were supposedly spotted going to see the Broadway play, Oh Mary, together in New York City. The rumors suggest they dated for quite some time, but it eventually fizzled out because, they realized they just worked better as friends.
Right. No bad blood, just a romantic lull.
Exactly. But I have to push back on this early narrative a little bit because whenever I read a source close to the couple says, my immediate instinct is that this is just a publicist trying to drum up buzz.
I mean, you're not wrong to think that.
Right. Going to a hit Broadway show in New York City isn't exactly how you keep a romance secret. Like, that is where you go when you want to be seen.
That is a highly skeptical and highly accurate way to look at it.
Historically, studios have always manufactured what the industry calls showmances to sell tickets.
Showmances.
Yeah. When a studio invests tens of millions of dollars into a romantic comedy, the cheapest and honestly most effective marketing campaign is convincing the public that the romance bled into real life.
It blurs the line between fiction and reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes the audience feel like they're watching a documentary of a budding relationship rather than, a scripted movie.
But for showmance rumor to work, it has to be believable, right? Which brings us to the context of where both of these stars are emotionally right now.
Yeah, the timing has to make sense to the public. And in this case, it kind of did. Brett Goldstein has been very publicly single since splitting from comedian Beth Rylance back in 2022.
Right.
And Jennifer Lopez finalized her highly publicized divorce from Ben Affleck in early 2025.
Which puts her in a massive emotional transition period. It really does. And sources close to Lopez claim that while she says she is moving on and she's over Affleck, she still gets teary-eyed over memories of things they did together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even small, mundane things trigger that emotion. So she's in an incredibly vulnerable place. It makes it hard for her to start something new, even if the people around her think a rebound romance might be exactly what she needs to change the public narrative.
All of this underlying tension perfectly sets the stage for that now viral Today Show interview with Savannah Guthrie.
Oh my goodness, that interview.
I watched that clip this morning, and you can practically cut the tension in the studio with a knife. Guthrie actually played a clip from Watch What Happens Live where J.Lo called Goldstein her best on-screen kisser. And then Guthrie just relentlessly pressed them on live TV about whether the chemistry was real. Okay, let's unpack this mechanism for a second.
Let's do it.
A press tour is essentially a magician's misdirection. The studios want you focusing on the steamy off-screen chemistry. They want the rumors, the whispers, and yes, they even want the live PV awkwardness.
Because awkwardness goes viral.
Exactly. It creates a spectacle that demands attention, it gets streams. And if you're loving these Hollywood twists, by the way, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead on this deep dive.
You really can see both actors navigating that exact misdirection in real time during that interview. When Guthrie pushes them, you can physically see Goldstein's body language tense up.
Yeah, he gets so stiff.
He does. Before he tries to deflect with his trademark dry humor, he jokes, that's why I've been standing so close this whole time.
Which is a brilliant, charming way to dodge the question without actually answering it.
But Guthrie didn't take the bait. She pushed back, pointing out that his joke wasn't a real answer. And that is the exact moment Lopez realized the PR game had gone too far.
You can see it on her face.
Completely. She looked straight into the camera, her tone shifted entirely, and she flatly shut the rumors down with 2 words. Not dating.
And Goldstein just chimed in with a simple, correct.
Yeah. Lopez then pointed out the exhausting reality that she gets romantically linked to pretty much every male co-star she ever works with.
So this entire multi-million-dollar marketing campaign relied heavily on this electric are they or aren't they romance. We were sold a passionate secret affair. But wait till you hear what came next.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
Because when the reviews for the actual movie dropped yesterday, the critics had a completely different takeaway.
The disconnect between the off-screen narrative and the on-screen reality is just jarring. Despite the massive PR push, the film itself, which was co-written by Goldstein and directed by Ole Parker, is currently sitting at a very mixed 48% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yikes. It did not land the way Netflix hoped.
Not at all.
Let's look at Caroline Seed's review over at the Girl Culture Substack. She gave the movie a C and pointed out what she called a fundamental mismatch of tones. She basically described it as a game of telephone gone horribly wrong.
The mechanics of how this movie was made explain that mismatch perfectly, though. Side notes that Goldstein and his co-writer, Joe Kelly, clearly wrote a script that reads like an R-rated, cynical sex farce.
Right.
But then Ole Parker stepped in and directed it like a glossy, sweeping 90s romance.
Talk about tonal whiplash.
Right. And to complicate things even further, Lopez is playing her character completely straight. She is acting her heart out in an earnest girl boss empowerment story.
It just sounds chaotic.
Yeah.
They gave Lopez this incredibly convoluted plot about a protracted legal battle over her job as an airline CEO, complete with a strict no-dating policy in her contract. And Side asks a glaringly obvious question in her review. She says, if these two characters are supposedly so deeply in love, why doesn't Goldstein's character just quit and get a different legal job?
Exactly.
It's not like he has a burning lifelong passion for aviation law.
The plot creates a set of stakes that feel entirely confusing and manufactured. The movie struggles to find its own identity because it's trying to pay homage to every subgenre of romantic comedy all at once without committing to any of them.
But the real standout from the reviews, and this is the most surprising consensus from major outlets like Cinema Blend, Variety, and IndieWire, is that J.Lo and Goldstein's chemistry isn't even the best part of the movie.
Not even close. Critics actually felt their romance was stilted and formulaic. They just didn't buy the connection that the press tour spent months trying to sell us.
Instead, the movie was completely hijacked by the supporting cast, specifically Betty Gilpin.
Oh, she is phenomenal in this. She plays Jackie's exhaustingly obsessive, heavily pregnant assistant, Sydney.
And apparently she is an absolute riot. Critics called her performance delightfully unhinged. The running joke is that she just hates Goldstein's character for absolutely no reason.
Just out of nowhere.
Yeah. She refuses to take maternity leave. She actively sabotages the budding romance with this borderline irrational hostility. And one reviewer noted she spits her lines out like needles.
That's a great description.
She provides this necessary shot of acid to a film that is otherwise drowning in glossy sweetness.
What's fascinating here is the ultimate irony of modern Hollywood. The marketing machine sold us a passionate real-life love affair between two massive stars, but they delivered a corporate legal comedy where the wacky side character completely stole the show.
This massive disconnect begs a really important question. If the movie's central romance was so flat, Why did we so eagerly buy into the gossip?
Right.
Why did millions of people tune in to watch Savannah Guthrie interrogate these two actors about their private lives? If you're listening right now and thinking, well, I don't follow celebrity gossip, so this isn't about me, think about the last time your favorite podcaster or YouTuber or author posted a personal life update. Did you feel invested? Because science actually has a deeply personal explanation for why we care so much about these figures. And that's not even the wildest part.
No, because the research shows it has very little to do with the celebrities themselves and everything to do with the specific psychological voids we were trying to fill.
I was looking at the research you brought from Anvijana. It's a scholarly review exploring parasocial relationships in teenagers.
Yes.
And I initially thought this was just going to be a study on crazy superfans, you know. But it traces this behavior back to early childhood trauma, which completely blew my mind.
To set a baseline for how this works, the concept of parasocial interactions was first defined by sociologists Horton and Voll way back in 1956.
Okay.
They define them as one-sided relationships where a person becomes heavily invested in a media figure. Back then, it was, a news broadcaster or a radio host. Today, it's a celebrity or an influencer.
The medium changed, but the psychology didn't.
Exactly. The key mechanism is that you feel a genuine sense of intimacy and connection, but the media figure doesn't even know you exist. It is entirely non-reciprocal.
And Anvijana's research looks at the root cause of why certain people fall so deeply into these one-sided bonds. The data connecting early childhood experiences to celebrity obsession later in life is just staggering.
It is. The study found a massive, undeniable link between childhood rejection by parents and social anxiety in adolescence. The statistical correlation is incredibly high. The data showed that feelings of rejection in childhood explain 79% of the variance in social anxiety later on.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's translate that for a second. When you say it explains 79% of the variance, what does that actually mean in plain English?
It means that if you take a group of socially anxious teenagers and ask, why are these kids struggling to connect with their peers?
Yeah.
Almost 80% of the differences in their anxiety levels can be traced directly back to whether they felt emotionally validated or rejected by their parents when they were young.
That is a massive portion of the pie.
Huge.
So how does a socially anxious teen get from childhood rejection to obsessing over Brett Goldstein's dating life? Like, what is the bridge there?
Well, when children don't receive consistent emotional validation, they develop what developmental psychologists call an anxious attachment style.
Okay.
They internalize the rejection, they start to feel fundamentally unworthy of affection, which breeds a deep, underlying fear of being abandoned in the real world. So when they become teenagers and are thrust into highly charged social environments like a high school cafeteria or a crowded party, they retreat.
Because real relationships are messy. They carry the risk of heartbreak, of being judged, of being left on red, of being abandoned all over again.
Precisely. They have learned that vulnerability leads to pain. So where do they turn to fulfill that deeply human need for connection? They turn to screens. They turn to celebrities. The data in Jana's study showed that for these socially anxious teens, there was a 78% increase in their own anxiety levels when a favorite celebrity experienced a negative life event.
Wait. They experience a 78% spike in genuine anxiety just because a celebrity they've never met is having a bad day.
Yes. If their favorite pop star gets hate comments online, or an actor has their personal info leaked, the fan's nervous system reacts as if their actual best friend is in danger.
That is wild.
It is. Because our brains evolved in small tribes of maybe 150 people, the human brain is not wired to understand the concept of a glowing screen. When you see a face experiencing distress on your phone, your lizard brain processes that as a member of your immediate tribe being threatened.
I'm going to pause here and ask a clarifying question. So what does this all mean? Are we saying that anyone who picks up a gossip magazine in a waiting room or roots for J.Lo to finally find true love is dealing with unresolved childhood trauma?
Not necessarily, no.
Because isn't casually following celebrity gossip just like eating fast food? We all know a burger isn't a nutritious farm-to-table meal, but it's a quick, easy fix for a natural human craving. We crave connection. Grabbing a quick bite of gossip doesn't mean we're starving or psychologically damaged, does it?
That is a crucial distinction to make. This behavior exists on a very wide spectrum. The fast food analogy is perfect because parasocial relationships are by definition, effortless.
Yeah.
They provide the illusion of intimacy without any of the heavy lifting. You don't have to compromise with a Jennifer Lopez. You don't have to argue over who does the
That
dishes.
sounds nice, actually.
Right. And most importantly, you have zero risk of Brett Goldstein rejecting you. It is a safe, calorie-free simulation of a friendship.
But the paper also dives into what happens when someone relies entirely on that fast food, right?
Mhm.
And if you're finding the psychology as fascinating as we are, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next.
Yes, the extreme end of that spectrum is what the clinical literature calls a borderline pathological parasocial relationship. At that point, it ceases to be casual entertainment. It becomes a full-blown delusion used to soothe deep psychological wounds.
And the study mentioned some of the dark historical realities of this extreme, which are pretty unsettling.
Yeah, the paper cites several historical tragedies born from this exact pathology. You look at the timeline of John Hinckley Jr., he watched the movie Taxi Driver over and over again, developing an intense parasocial obsession with the actress Jodie Foster.
Mm-hmm.
He began stalking her, he moved to Connecticut to be near her at Yale, and his anxious attachment spiraled into the delusion that the only way to prove his worth and win her affection was to assassinate the President of the United States.
It's terrifying.
Or you look at the tragic death of the iconic singer Selena, who was murdered by Yolanda Saldivar, the president of her own fan club.
It really highlights how quickly a perceived one-sided bond can curdle into something dangerous when the fan feels betrayed or ignored.
It raises a very urgent question about our current media environment. The digital landscape we live in today has essentially poured gasoline on this psychological fire.
Because historically, fans could only consume content passively. You watched a movie in a theater or you listened to a record. It was a one-way street, and the boundary was clear.
Exactly. But now, social media influencers and celebrities intentionally shatter that boundary. They break the fourth wall constantly.
They employ specific psychological tactics, like they use second-person language, looking directly into the camera lens and saying, "I love you guys," or "I couldn't have gotten through this breakup without you."
Yes.
They share carefully curated behind-the-scenes footage of their messy bedrooms or their morning skincare routines. It is a highly calculated strategy to manufacture intimacy.
They make you feel like you're on a private FaceTime call with a close friend, rather than watching a calculated brand advertisement designed to sell a product or a movie.
Right, and the data proves how dangerously effective this is. The JANA study found an incredibly strong correlation, an R-value of 0.917, between social media use and delusional parasocial bonds.
Okay, we need to explain an R value to the listener because 0.917 sounds like a lot, but what does it actually measure?
In statistics, an R-value measures how closely two things are related.
Yeah.
A value of 1.0 means a perfect, 100% locked-in guarantee.
Okay.
Human behavior is incredibly messy, so seeing an R value of 0.917 in behavioral sciences is astronomical. It means there is a massive, almost inescapable link between how often you check a star's feed and the genuine delusional belief that if you just comment enough times, the celebrity will notice you and become your real friend.
And the algorithms exploit this anxious attachment style, don't they? If you are a socially anxious teen looking for safe connection, the algorithm learns that you linger on videos of Brett Goldstein.
Yep.
So it feeds you more. It creates an endless loop of safe, risk-free interactions that reinforce the artificial bond. The algorithm is providing a constant drip of emotional validation.
Because constant access to information about someone makes us feel closer to them. The brain entirely blurs the lines between virtual observation and genuine interaction.
Which brings us all the way back to Jennifer Lopez, Brett Goldstein, and that incredibly tense Today Show interview.
Full circle.
When we watch Savannah Guthrie grill them on live TV about whether they went on a date or if they were kissing off camera, we aren't just consuming news about a movie. We feel like we are sitting at the brunch table with our friend group, demanding the gossip about last night.
We get to safely experience the thrill of a new romance and the dramatic tension of a potential breakup without putting any of our own emotional capital on the line.
Right.
We don't have to risk being hurt to feel the butterfly-inducing highs of a Hollywood showmance.
We project our own desires for love or our own deep-seated fears of heartbreak onto these two incredibly famous people who are, at the end of the day, just trying to promote a corporate workplace comedy.
And in the process, we completely ignore the fact that the actual movie they made is about a convoluted aviation legal dispute and a really funny assistant.
We came for the grand, sweeping romance, and we got Betty Gilpin refusing to take maternity leave and spitting insults.
Which honestly sounds like a pretty compelling movie in its own right, just maybe not the epic love story we were promised by the press tour.
We started this deep dive looking at red carpet rumors, undeniable chemistry, and mixed movie reviews. But we ended up looking straight into a psychological mirror.
You really did.
The media we consume and the people we obsess over often tell us far more about our own unmet needs than they do about the stars themselves. It challenges us to look at where we are spending our emotional capital.
So I want to leave you with something to chew on as you go about your day. Think about your own screen time. If you're listening to this, think about the emotional energy and the genuine empathy you spend tracking the highs and lows of celebrities, influencers, or podcasters, people who will never, ever know your name.
Mm-hmm.
If you took just a fraction of that energy and redirected it into your messy, risky, but entirely real-world relationships, how much less socially anxious might we be as a society? What would happen if the cameras flashed and the crowd froze for the people actually standing right in front of us?
It's a really powerful thought. The real connection we are all starving for is usually right there in our actual lives, without the need for a multi-million-dollar press tour.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.